And now we will present this talk, What is the Future of the Community in an Always Evolving World by Madona. So the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Cassandra. I mean, it's such an honor to be here today with my first community, actually. And I'm going to share my screen. And just I'm going to present. Can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I'll see the lovely purple slides.
Perfect. I like to hear that. Perfect. So first, I'm going to talk about the title, which is What is the Future of the Community in Always Evolving World? And to me, I think the most important thing is seeing how the community has really helped me individually as a person. I mean, I cannot even comprehend. And funny enough, I can just start by sharing my story of how actually I started getting engaged in the community. So I am a caregiver, a mom of two, and it's pretty hard from time to time when you have kids to always be active, doing events or even at work, because, it's very challenging. I mean, it's a challenge we all face as moms. And I remember I had taken my sabbatical, and during this time, I was just trying to find something little that I can do from time to time, and I found a passion of actually contributing to the to the Women Who Code. And at Women Who Code, what I would do, this is locally. So what I would do is just go to local events. They would host like Kassie on Saturdays and talk about Android just from time to time. And it made me really feel actually fulfilled. Even though I knew that I was not working, I would just at least from time to time like say, can you watch my kids for me? I need to go to an event by Women Who Code and just see what they're doing today and kind of like also share what I've learned so far. And what really inspired me a lot was the fact that it was very welcoming, and the community itself was very inclusive of all women and also men too. And one thing that I've come to learn now is if I had not gone to the events that I used to go to during the time that I was in sabbatical, I don't know where I would be now, because I look at my career now where it is and how far I've grown, and kind of like attribute all that back to Women Who Code, to be fair. Now, jumping onto my talk, I'm going to talk about me. That's me. Now, I work as a senior Android engineer. I'm also an author. I'm writing my first book, and I'm also a Women Tech Makers Ambassador and a GDE Android, which means a Global Developer Expert for Android. Now, community interactions have changed, and actually, I'm also going to talk a little bit about my experience at one Women Who Code event I attended back in 2019 in San Francisco. And I met amazing women at San Francisco. This is before the pandemic happened. And during that time, I remember I was in the peak of my traveling because my kids are bigger now. And I was like, now I have that thing where I don't want to leave my kids when they're little because I'm so scared. Like, who's going to watch them? Are they going to cry all the time? But when I went to the event back in 2019, I really felt motivated, encouraged, reinvigorated. I was so happy about just everything. I was listening to the talks, seeing how women are doing great in the industry, in the tech industry. And I was like, wow, I really want to do this too. And sadly, before I could even do that, the pandemic happened. And to me, when the pandemic happened, I really felt like, wow, I really thought I would be out here now giving talks to, because I've been learning a lot of Android on the side, and I thought I would be sharing this knowledge. But then the pandemic happened, and now everybody was faced to stay back home and not interact anymore. And kind of like we went into a lockdown. But to me, that did not stop me. I felt like I was really inspired from this event that I attended, and I really think I should give back the community, either through learning or also like through contributing from time to time. And then I discovered Women Who Code Mobile, which was purely online. And that's how I actually started getting engaged slowly by slowly, and met amazing women too there and stayed connected. Now, the other thing that I would like to mention is actually why I care. So for me, why I cared is because I really noticed that when I was engaging with the community, I was really learning a lot. And I was making long lasting connections, like friendships, where I would think some of my colleagues. I call them colleagues now because it feels like we work together, even though we don't work in the same company. I would ping them and ask them, how are you doing today? How's work going? And then we would chat back and forth and also have like coffee chat. And also just want to mention, I actually mentioned this before we even started recording to Cassandra, that this is the year I've met like so many Women Who Code members, because that's my first community anyway. So I like to always go back to my community and say, I've met so many members and I feel so fulfilled. And this is through me engaging in like moving forward to meet even other communities, like the Android community in general, that is DroidCon, and also other kind of communities that are going on that cater for Android people. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I've really met people that I really like, I've been interacting with and I've always wanted to meet. And the reason as to why I think you should care is because there's a lot of things to learn and there's so much connection that goes on that you cannot just overlook. And even through my talk, as you'll see, I'll talk about the benefits of being in a community, why it's important to always contribute, and how it helps. Now, something that I feel like I've mentioned already is the diversity. It's really diverse when you're engaged in the community, because as you can see, I met people from London, I've met people from different areas. I even met my best friend. I call her my best friend because we actually met through Women Who Code, but I met her finally in New York. She's from Greece, Vivian. And it was just amazing just to see how from being connected, like I remember, so funny enough, communities have been there even before. And there was this thing called pen pal. I don't know if many people have ever heard of it, where you would write something to somebody overseas and then you've never met them, but then one day it happens, you meet them and you're like, wow. So I met my pen pal, Vivian, who's always been a best friend of mine. We chat online, but finally meeting her in person was really amazing. And what made us connect was Women Who Code. So to me, communities are very important and they help us a lot. And then it really helps us like grow that ability to connect. And even now, if she works for Pfizer, if they have an opening there, she can always recommend me, which I find it to be something very good where somebody can actually recommend you. So communities are super great. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about how this community, how like the community in general, the one I'm in right now, like Women in Code, is really very important. We have the iOS team in the mobile track. We have the Android team in the mobile track. We have web tracks. We have data tracks, and we have machine learning. I think another track that you can find actually on the Women Who Code website. And I feel like to me, this has also been super amazing because Women Who Code is trying to create a community where people can connect, the women can connect, and they can come together in different tracks and help each other when you're experiencing an issue. So the fact that we have all this, it really means a lot. And to me, it actually shows how you can learn more from the community. Like, let's say there's more community contributors. There's a lot of unique stories to learn from everybody that attends, that comes into those particular tracks. And also there's more unique backgrounds. Like you can find that let's say you're in one of the tracks. I'm going to talk about mobile because mobile is my favorite track. So there'll be more unique backgrounds there. There'll be more technical problems we can solve together. And also there's that diverse community. And also there's much learning because sometimes I feel like I don't even know any iOS, but I interact a lot with the iOS people a lot, like Navati and Vui, people that I've never met, but actually I've met Navati. See, like I mentioned, community has really helped me interact and also meet so many women in the Women Who Code. And the purpose of the talk today, actually, it's just going to showcase how communities are really helpful and how you can stay connected and how you can leverage this to amplify your voice and even grow your career and even be successful in things that you want to do. Because I feel like, yeah, with my work, like our day-to-day job, but sometimes there's fulfillment when you interact with other people outside from your work too, especially now that we're in a remote world, because so many things have changed a lot. Like now we have a lot of virtual work and also we have a lot of virtual events actually, and also we have remote jobs and also sometimes hybrid kind of format. But the fact that we are also welcoming that, we need to be able to know how we can come together also as a community and see how we can enrich ourselves. Now, first, though, I want to talk about how community engagement and community engagement looks and feels post-pandemic. I actually highlighted the post in red because I was like, are we actually post-pandemic? And I feel like we're still not yet, right? It feels like people are still scared to attend conferences. I mean, I am still scared actually to attend conferences. And now we have like a masking world where we have to put on a mask. And I always wonder, can we actually even plan, and are our goals even achievable? And also fatigue. I mean, people are still very fatigued. So one thing that I would say is that take it step by step, because the community does adapt and the community does move fast, right? So you can find other ways to stay active if you're, let's say you're afraid of going to conferences and giving talks, or even seeing how you can, contribute, and you feel like maybe I'm not comfortable doing this, maybe I'm not ready to give my talk. And one thing that I can say is that you need to just be easy on yourself. Like, it's true the communities have to adapt, right, and move fast to just keep the members engaged. Because I can imagine if we didn't have any communities, can you imagine if we didn't have any women who code? I don't know where I would be today. I think I don't even want to think about that, because I think one thing that I've learned is there's still so many people that still don't know that communities exist. And I feel like, to me, people knowing that they exist is going to be very important, but how will they know they exist? So it's just us spreading the word and sharing from time to time that, hey, we do have this community out there, and mostly even talk, because I'm still a student too. And one of the things that I normally do even at school, because I do online school, just tell them, hey, look, there are communities that can actually help you even decide the type of career you want to pick or you want to go to. So one thing that I also want to say is that we can all agree that the community interaction have changed, right? And like I've mentioned before, the one way of engaging the community that I found myself, because this is community feels like more of a storytelling where you're just telling your story yourself, because you cannot define anybody's community. But one thing that I do know about my community is that I feel like I've always created an environment where I feel like it's inclusive for everybody, regardless. And the one thing that I've done that I feel like has really rewarded me a lot is the Twitter spaces that I created. So I decided to create the Twitter spaces just to engage my community, because now look, we are all in the house, you cannot go anywhere, and we couldn't do anything. What better way other than do like a podcast kind of Twitter space where I'm talking to the other 100 engineers. And also I did a lot of Twitter engagements too. I know we're going through sad times. We're going through sad times. I would like to mention that, but still I decided like, hey, look, I can get something out of this, like engage people on Twitter, talk to them, see what's happening around, so that at least I won't feel very excluded. Because one thing that I noticed that I struggled with, that is me individually, the fact that I couldn't go anywhere, it was very hard. Like, you can't go to any events, you can't meet other people. You can't even see your workmates, so you have to do this in the house. And then my kids were in the house. It was pretty hard. So finding ways to kind of like enable, like, and make myself feel better about stuff was pretty nice. Now, the other thing that I've done is definitely I take advantage of a hybrid format a lot. Like right now, I know many events take advantage of hybrid, where yes, we do have online, also we do have people that can attend in person, which I think is something that I've grown. And the other thing is definitely online conferences. Online conferences are so many now, and I really like the fact that people now are going to them. And one community that does that is the Women Who Code. Women Who Code does so many online conferences that you can attend and feel like you're still part of it, part of the community. Now, I'm gonna skip to this part where I'm gonna talk about sometimes contributing can be pretty hard, right? Where you're wondering, okay, so I want to be part of this community, but I don't understand how I can actually contribute as a person, right? And to me, what I can say is that you don't have to write an article. You don't have to do anything very big. Just pace yourself. And actually showing up is part of contributing to your community if you didn't know. For instance, people that showed up today to just listen to this community talk, they're part of the community. They showed up. So you're contributing one way or the other. So one thing I would say is definitely you don't have to stress about what you can do in the community. How can you make an impact? Or because everybody is different. People also learn different, Like I myself would be like, I cannot push a lot of content like every other day. It's true, I started my podcast Tech Talks with Madona, but what I'm doing is I don't push it every other day. I only do it once every Friday, like every Friday in a week once, and definitely have it in the form of a season where we can go. Season 1 has like 9 episodes and that's it, and then I take a break. But definitely what I aim into this is just engaging the community more and meeting other women in tech, and also learning about their journey, and also seeing how we can inspire others out there that want to join the field and feel like they have not gotten the grip yet of how the community feels like. Now, something that I've also learned is that the support system every time you join a community is very strong. And the diversity of the community too helps a lot. For instance, again, I'm going to just reiterate my story before. I found so many amazing women in Women Who Code, because this is the community I want to talk about today. And I cannot imagine how far, and I mean, I cannot just imagine how far I've come if it wasn't for the support from Women Who Code members who would cheer me on, like, hey, Madonna has a talk today, let's show up. I'm like, oh my God, they're supporting me. So having people support you is very great, and it really helps a lot. Now, my Start Small bullet just talks about how definitely you don't have to contribute to the community, just engage. We have a Slack channel where we talk about simple things, even like, what are you doing this weekend? So contribute is where you can just go in there and comment and say, yes, I'll be doing A, B, C, D, like I'm doing this and that. So definitely, and of course, reach out to the community, just staying engaged. Now, I know I'm talking about community and everybody's wondering, like, what is there for me? Like, what are the benefits, right? Like, how is this going to help me? Like, so I have some amazing bullets here where I'm talking about how actually the community helps. So there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of career growth. There's a lot of shared passion also. Like I mentioned, we have ML. We do have like, I think we have ML, and then we have, let's say, I think it's data. And also we have like web, different tracks that you can actually look into. And all this will have, like, once you join the community, you'll find this shared passion, and you will feel like, yes, whenever I struggle with a problem, I can ask somebody else. We also have mobile for sure, which is the one that I'm in. You can definitely experience that shared passion in there. There's also networking, very important. Networking is very important, especially if you're in tech, you definitely need to be networking. And then this sense of belonging where you feel like, yes, I do belong because I'm accepted here. I'm able to share my voice. I'm able to ask questions. I'm able to attend conferences here. It's super amazing. Again, meaningful connections. Like I've said, I have found great friends that even Cassandra today, she introduced me. I met her the other day in New York. It was super great. We hanged out. It was super cool. And then it does help, mental health boost. Like you feel like, because for me, this particular bullet speaks to how during the pandemic, when everything was closed out, when I was able to just go in the Slack channels and just talk to other women, I really felt like, yeah, everything is going great because I'm able to talk to other people. And at least I don't feel like I'm just by myself or not having people to talk with, because sometimes talking to someone really helps a lot, especially in the tech world, because things are not easy. Like you might get stuck in a bug like for 10 minutes and you're like, not even, no, so I feel like 10 minutes is too little. Like let's say maybe hours. And you're like, how will I solve this? But you go in some of the tracks and post the question in Slack, and people will come to your rescue and people will answer, even if it's not the correct answer, they will help or try to help. Now, I'm just going to talk about what the community means to me. I feel like this is very important because it really stamps why I even created this talk, particularly because it really means a lot to me in such a way that it's a vibe. I mean, the vibe is very helpful. And I know this is going to be biased because it's just, I'm going to be talking about my Android community here. And my Android community, of course, consists of also Women Who Code, mobile track. And definitely I found the vibe to be super cool. And then also it's helpful where we help each other. And then also collaborative, where we work as a team. We also I find it also engaging, where we're always engaged. So if you're here today or listening or watching from YouTube, please join our online, our Slack channel. We're very collaborative, engaging, helpful too, and then very welcoming. Now, but what does the community think? So I created this particular section because I wanted to showcase it's not just about me, because sometimes just you giving your own story and telling how the community is good to you, many people might not relate. So I reached out to part of the community, my community, of course, again, Women Who Code, and tried to just ask them what actually the community means to them, or how the community feels, and how it's evolving for them during this particular, I mean, like I mentioned before, I don't feel like we are post-pandemic yet, because people are still scared. I mean, if you go today in a conference, you come out of it, you'll hear that maybe 10 people had COVID. So it's not that easy. So definitely I reached out to the community members. And here, as you can see, I had a quote by Celine Denard. She's another developer. She's part of our community. And she said, community helps me be myself and never be afraid of falling down, because in community, there's always someone to give me a hand, which I found to be super cool and also very beautiful, because that is very true. I feel like she spoke to me and about me, even though we've never met in person. And then I spoke to also Roy, who's an iOS engineer, and she told me having the right community for you is so important. Community has allowed me to take risks and develop my leadership and speaking skills in a safe space. Having the right community support has taught me that showing up and doing your best and supporting one another is more important than being perfect. Wow. So that was also very important to me, because I learned from her perspective what actually community means to her. And then I also spoke to Sierra, who's a super cool friend of mine. And I just met her also through Women Who Code during the pandemic period. And we've stayed as friends for long. And here, as you can see, she said, community has given me the confidence to learn, share, speak, teach, and pursue a goal in public, knowing that I have a global cheer section supporting and encouraging me. So if this is you out there feeling like you want to start giving your talks or contributing in any different ways, I'll also talk about different ways you can contribute in your community, because I feel like all of them are going to be similar, either web, machine learning, iOS, all of them are going to be similar, because we are all in tech and kind of like just have different stacks. But I'll share that so that you can see how you can contribute to the community and stay engaged. Now, I also found this quote to be pretty great, which was a way of giving back, which is through kind of like mentorship, where you can also give back like mentorship. And here, Mohir said, last few days of vacation left with no plans, so thinking to help the community with knowledge. Happy to mentor people on Android, package design, or how to leapfrog in your career. So these are things that you can do if you're, let's say, a professional too, and you're watching or listening. In a way, you can always like reach out to people, like ask, even in the Slack channel, like just jump in there and ask, hey, you know what? I have free time. I'm available to mentor if anybody wants to be mentored, or if anybody needs help. That's the way that you can contribute to the community. And I also reached out to Navadi, and she gave me also a great quote where she said, in a constantly evolving field like tech, community can help one stay updated and keep motivated in a substantial way. This also actually spoke to me very dearly, because I feel like this is actually what helped me get the job when I came from a sabbatical, where I was able to come out, and then since I was still staying, my knowledge was still staying fresh, I was able to interview pretty quick and get a job. I mean, I again attribute all my success to staying and acting in a community and always being engaged. And last but not least, of course, Cassandra. I know she's here. I don't know if she saw this good, but she gave me a very nice quote that I really think I should share with the community too. This community has given me insights and honest feedback to gain my developer and professional skills. There are various opportunities for me to be involved, as well as to support others on their tech journeys and cheer for one another's accomplishment. I've not felt alone in my Android journey thanks to this community. My success is because of this community's it is this powerful. And I know she was speaking about women in code community. So it might feel like I'm advertising for women in code. I feel like, yeah, but definitely what I'm talking towards is, once you're in a community and you feel like you don't belong, always find a community that you feel like you belong. And to me, the community is the people. How welcoming are they? How willing are they to adjust and be welcoming to you too? Because people have different needs. So definitely I've learned so much and grown so much and appreciate so much the values that I have gained from my community. Now, as I mentioned, one of the other things that I actually decided to do was do the tech talks with Madona, because I was like, I have this broad set of community people that I know from different backgrounds, let's say iOS product managers, engineers, like STEM in general. So I decided, how about I engage them even more by doing my podcast, which is something I launched the other day. Now, I wanted to talk about, actually, I feel like this particular quote here is not, like, I wouldn't say the community is not energized, because I feel like the community is always energized. So I will rephrase this to, actually, how can one contribute, or who can contribute? And one thing that I would say is, guess what? Juniors and seniors or anyone else can contribute. There's so many ways of contributing in the tech world. You can be a tech writer, you can do speaks, you can also mentor, you can also review code. And I'm going to talk that in depth right here. And as you see here, I have a section of exactly how contributing looks like. As I said, showing up, people that showed up today, if you watch this on YouTube, through the webinar, is the same. You show up. The resume review, where you help review people's resumes and also interview practices. And then there's giving talks. You can answer Stack Overflow questions. You can do mentoring. You can contribute to open source. You can do YouTube or podcasting, that is what I'm doing, because I feel like one thing that I've learned that I'm passionate about is speaking to people. I feel like that's my strength, where I just want to engage people more, because I want to learn from everybody, because everybody has such a unique story and such unique ways of showing how they got where they are, that I'm interested in learning more and sharing that, because I feel like that might inspire somebody that's maybe afraid of joining the tech world, or maybe don't feel like maybe this is not my right path. See that maybe they are right path. So yeah. And then writing stock reviews, also organizing. I mean, organizing is not easy. And I just want to applaud the people behind organizing this particular webinar for doing that, because it's not an easy job. Now, as you see, just showing up is part of being a community member. Is showing up, join a community, ask a question, engage the people. Now, resume review, this is how I broke down resume review. You can help the job seeker, student, junior to mid-level does. And when you're senior, also reach out and mentor. Giving talks, definitely that is just sharing what you've learned. This one can be even at work. Like, it doesn't have to be in big tech conferences. No. You can start giving talks at work, where you're just sharing with your colleagues about what you've learned or what you're struggling with. And sometimes it might be in a good way. For instance, now I'm going to talk about the Android. In Android, we have the new Jetpack Compose, which is the new UI that's being used. So one of the way that you might help, if you're in, let's say, a field where there's something new, you can take that initiative of saying, actually, I'm gonna lead a sharing session. Like, I'm gonna teach that, and that's okay. That's giving a talk. I mean, you've done that. It's giving a talk. Now, there's also mentoring. This is what I mentioned, offering mentorship to junior, mid-level, and senior leaders that are looking for mentorship. Also answering Stack Overflow questions. I find this to be very good, because every developer goes to Stack Overflow from time to time. It might not be everybody, but let me take that back. It might be everybody, because you never know, because there's always new challenges that people experience every other day. Now, there's open source contribution. This can vary in different sections, where you can open an issue, you can review a pull request, you can fix issues, or even become a maintainer. This is something that actually fits in all stacks. So like, if you're machine learning, there will always be open source. If you're in data analytics, there'll always be open source. All the sections definitely have open source contributions, playing a big part in tech. And then definitely YouTube or podcasting, that is just where you're engaging people like I'm doing, just finding a way to keep the community engaged, and writing blog posts for sure. That is where you review others, actually blogs sometimes. I find this to be pretty good. This is where, let's say if I'm a writer and I'm afraid that I don't know maybe if my writing is good, I can always find somebody that's better in it and ask them if they can review. So this is something that people can actually do, and I find it to be pretty good. And then last but not least, organizing. Definitely organizing is very important. Now, I know I've mentioned so many things and everybody's like, Madonna, how do you expect us to do all these things? My simple answer is you don't have to do all of it. Just do something little, just get started little. Don't jump into everything. And also one thing that I always say, it's always good to avoid burnout and also mental health. And I feel like every time I mention that, I'm always cautious to myself too, because I'm a GDE and I'm also a woman taking Mexico's ambassador. And I'm also a woman who code lead volunteer. And I'm also writing a book. I'm also a mom and I'm also a student. So that's a lot of things that I'm doing. So I always want to make sure that I'm also being kind to myself. Like, okay. Oh, and I'm also starting my podcast. So I'm always cautious, like, hey, Madonna, make sure you don't burn out. Like you don't do everything so much that you don't have time for yourself. And a balance that I found for myself definitely that works is to balance myself. Like what is important, what needs to be done now, what can be done in the future. Like for instance, my podcast now, what I do is take one day, do the editing, and also schedule all the posts one day, and then I'm done. I'm like, no, I'm not touching that. And it's set to that particular date. Like if it's a Wednesday, yes, but then schedule them such that they'll be posted on different days. So yeah, that's one tip. But like that needs a talk about itself. And so another way that I feel like not users, but community members can make sure that they feel like they are not burning out or stressing themselves up is find the community too to help you like in everything you want to do. For instance, ask for feedback, find GDEs. In most of the texts, you'll find that there are GDEs, like in Android, there are. I know iOS, there's nothing like that, but you can definitely interact with other iOS members, find community support, lean into the community, your community, and also organize coffee chats. Like ask them, how do you do this? For instance, I'm always available for coffee chats where you can ask Madonna, how is your book progress coming? How are you working on that? How do you balance? And definitely just sharing that, learning from each other. That's part of the community. And then definitely what works? Definitely what works is pick something that works for you. One thing that I want to say is that I was always afraid of writing books. And I feel like if somebody has seen this talk before, I mentioned it because I was always afraid of writing because I feel like my technical writing is different because English is not my first language. I do come from a different ethnicity and I have a different first language. And I decided to take a challenge, actually, like challenge myself, and decided to write a book because I knew I don't like writing technical stuff, but I like science fictions and I do want to write science fiction book late in the future. So I decided, let me take this particular challenge and challenge myself, and then I'll definitely get a way to actually how I can write maybe a science fiction book in the future. So I'm hoping this will lead me to writing science fiction because I am a fan of science fiction and I love writing science fiction. I used to write when I was little, just books, but I never saw the day of light. But definitely, this is the right. So definitely challenge yourself. If you feel like things are not going as you would like them to go, just first of all, be kind to yourself, avoid burnout, but challenge yourself. Like that little contribution, that coming out, that coming out and saying, I can actually sign up today to become a volunteer in one of the tracks for Women Who Code. Like we need volunteers from time to time. We definitely need evangelists to help us with our what is it called? With social media. We also need leads to help because I feel like, yes, I've been a lead for long, but definitely I would look forward to having somebody else come take that, learn how to actually contribute to the community and how actually being a lead helps, and also doing other things too in the community. And with that, that is me. You can find my website there and my Twitter, and also where I host in my podcast. If you want to listen to the podcast and also listen to how I'm engaged with the community. And also I'm grateful for Women in Code for giving me this opportunity to share what the community means to me and how the community has helped me and how the future of the community looks and how you can be part of it. And also how you can contribute and feel like that tiny contribution is worthwhile, even though you're not feeling like I need to be like 10 content every other day. Just small contribution that leads you to staying connected in a great community relationship, feeling included, also feeling like you can grow in your career. And that's it.
Wow, that is very fantastic and resourceful talk. There's now it's like there's an actual plan, like what to do to be part of the community. Like, for example, like you mentioned, like the blogs and organizing events. It's actionable steps that you can do. And
yes,
go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like mostly to me, again, I will keep insisting on this particular part where be kind to yourself and look at what works. And once you find, like, let's say I'm good with just doing YouTube videos, or let's say you're good with just replying or showing up, that's good. That's enough. You're showing up. You're part of the community. You're contributing either way. So that's what I would say. Just find what works for you and do that. That works.
That is so fantastic. Thank you so much for presenting. If there's any questions, please post in the chat and then we'll have Madonna answer them. But I do have various questions. First of all, where does this passion come from? Like, is there like a spark that came in early in your life, or they just came out like when you entered in the tech field? How did it begin?
Oh, wow, that's a very interesting question. And I feel like, so I can talk about like my passion for the community, or rather interaction with people, because I feel like this is something maybe, okay. So I went to school in Kenya, and in Kenya, we do have the British system. And having the British system means that you go through a particular but a particular curriculum. And also there's different formats. It's not like here, because now I'm here and I've seen how my kids are going to school. It's very different. And I remember when I was in 8th grade, I think it will be 8th grade, but there it was called class 8. I was picked to be a leader, and I was leading 500 students. And I was they called it the primary leader, like you lead the students, because I would engage people just nicely and make sure they're included. So they saw something in me and they picked me to be the leader. And I thought that was pretty nice, because I was young and I was, engaging people and talking to people and always being fair and kind. I don't know. So I feel like it's something that has been in me. And also, so funny enough, when I went to high school, when I was in my, I don't know how it's called here, maybe, I don't know the grade here, but I was in Form 3. You call it Form 3. I think it would be similar to the 10th grade. I don't know if that's a thing. But before I think it's junior high school, not senior. So here it's called junior high school. And there it was called Form 3. So when I was in Form 3 too, they picked me to be the leader, and I was leading 1,000. I had an office actually when I was in high school. Like, if the students' issues, they were brought to me. I know that's what. And then I was the final judge, just say something, or help resolve conflict. So I think definitely also there they saw something in me. So that engaging student also just making sure they Spanish. So to me, I would say I attribute everything to just being willing to listen, and also being willing to grow, and also the willingness to connect with other people and learn from their stories. Because I feel like that's how we grow as individuals and also as a human. It's a human thing where the more you're connected with people, the more you understand how everybody is feeling from time to time. And also the more you become cautious of what you might say that might affect others. And I mean, I feel like it digs deeper, but one word to finalize this is just to say inclusivity. That's the word. Just making sure you're inclusive to everybody and listening to them and being a good listener. I feel like that's what has gotten the passion comes from there.
Right. Because um when there's like, I guess there's some people that do like to reach out to others, even though like they see them like, oh, you have potential to do this. Like, even though that they internally think about they want to do it, they just probably need like a little push. And then basically that's all we need. Just give them a little push, and then they could just be involved in the community. That's what happened with me. I've been in both ways. So I have pushed people to it, but at the same time, I had people push me, like you mentioned earlier in your talk, to be the best cheerleader. All the cheerleading.
That is very true. That's very true too, because we sometimes there are that push themselves. Like, I would need to find a community, but there are also others that need to be pushed. Like, hey, Cassandra, you will be pretty good contributing here. Do you mind joining us, or do you mind coming to do this? Or even the same, pushing you to give talks too. You know, like that's what I've been trying to do too. You know, that's what I've been doing today, pushing everybody to contribute to the community.
And you're doing a fantastic job with it. So what have you been learning all these years that you've been observing the community and seeing how the changes have been going on before, during, and then the now present times? What is the thing that you observed that surprised you in the, let's say, for example, either women in tech or Android community?
Yeah, so to me, what really surprised me was during the pandemic is, first of all, I never attended any online event. Never. I mean, I didn't know anything like that existed. So I think when the pandemic came, definitely a lot changed. And that's why I talked about what is the future of community in an always evolving world, because the world has evolved. I mean, think about it, right? So now what I can say is that now that we have even more opportunities for people to be engaged in communities, like, for instance, what we're doing today is online. What we're doing today is going to be distributed online. So before, people would go to conferences. I mean, that's still happening, but now it's happening both ways. It's not called hybrid, where people can go to events or they can watch them online. So I feel like there's more ways to contribute now as compared to before, because it feels like before actually wasn't inclusive. Because think about a mom. If you have kids, do you have to always schedule yourself to like find baby care? And then not even a mom, just any caregiver. It was very hard. But now you can definitely have your kids in your room, or whoever you're taking care of in their particular respective places, and join a conference. I know they may not feel the same, definitely, but there's that fulfillment where you stay engaged in the community and you're just contributing.
Yeah, that's the way nowadays, because now you have more options to contribute, and like you said, it's more inclusive, and that's definitely the changes I also been observing too throughout these years.
So that's something that wasn't there, that is there now, that I'm very proud of, and I feel like it's really been helpful.
That's fantastic. And also, like, from all these times of being a contributor, what are you learning from the community? What is the top of your mind? What is one thing that you learned from the community that you're like, oh my God, like life lesson or something?
Yes, that people have very unique stories. Like, when you listen to the people in the community, there's so much to learn, because you're like, wow, you inspire me. Like, I was talking to another lady the other day, and she was telling me she never thought, so she didn't go to school, and she never thought she would even get into tech. But fantastically, something happened, and a friend actually pushed her to go into a boot camp, and she actually dreamt of having this particular job at this particular place. And then she applied for the job, and then she looked, because she told, it was very funny, she has LinkedIn Premium. And I'm talking about a story because I'm telling you, there's so many unique stories. She had LinkedIn Premium and looked at it, and it was like 300 people applied for the job, and she was from a boot camp, and she wasn't sure she would get the job, but she got the job from the 300. So there's a lot to learn from the community. There's so many unique stories. So that story by itself, it's very motivating, even to me. Even if I have a job, I'm like, actually, I think I can make it. Like, I can apply for a position that I feel like I'm not suited for, and try my chances, because it's about always trying. So there's a lot to learn in the community.
Yeah, very determined, and the perseverance that got her
Yes,
through.
perseverance.
Congrats.
Yeah.
I'm really good for her. I'm very proud. I feel proud of her now.
Yes, yes. Because it was amazing. Just listen to it. Like, wow, really? Yeah.
No, yeah, because it does feel like a bit, it's like normal, like you see all these numbers and you're just like, feel
Not
like I'm
gonna
not qualified. Yeah, I'm not going to even bother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about actually how imposter syndrome really affected her. She was like, I don't think out of these 300 people I'll be picked. Like, how? I just came from a boot camp. But she got it. She got the job.
Great. It's fantastic. What are like things that you wish you can see more in the community? Like if there's things that you saw but it could be improved, or what is that you want to see in the community more?
So I think that might vary with the communities. So might be different. Like let's say for women who code, it's not the same to what let's say maybe DroidCon would want or maybe iOS would want. So I think that solution will definitely vary. But one thing that I would mention is I noticed that one thing that I want to see actually, and this is just in the wider community, where for instance, if there's a conference and it's everybody coming to a conference, like we need, if you're a caregiver, we need support for caregivers. I know big organizations do that, but not everybody is yet willing to adapt to that perspective of, hey, look, actually, we can have caregivers here. So we need to find childcare when people are attending our events. So I feel like that is something that I want to see happening more in the future, like where we are more inclusive, like, because it doesn't feel inclusive where if you don't enable that, or if you don't say you're doing that, because then it means if I have kids and I want to come to a conference, I have to find daycare. Daycare is not, it's expensive. And the people that cannot afford it. And maybe people want to come to the conference and they're like, I don't think I can go because who am I going to leave my kids with? So having a place where it's more inclusive, even for speakers, like if you're speakers and then you have kids and you don't want to leave your kids to, that should be supported where they pay for your kids too. Like, what's wrong with that? So I feel like in the future that should be something that's really supported. I mean, right? Think about it. How are we going to talk about inclusivity if we are not thinking about the things that might hinder other people from being included in those communities or even attending the events?
Right. Yeah, that's so true, especially when it's like financial issues too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially nowadays. That would be funny though if a conference would have like a little daycare center, like how like a lot of like jobs have their own daycare rooms or something.
Yes.
That would be something cool, maybe.
Yeah, because I feel like the financial part is definitely very big, but most of the companies definitely do pay for their people to attend the conferences. But to me, is let's say I can afford to bring my kids. Will they get daycare when I'm attending the conference? Because it should be there, it should be a part. But maybe I'm asking a lot, but maybe it's not a lot. But I feel like that's something that I would want to see in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That sounds like
as a caregiver, because
yeah, we need to really exhaust the inclusivity, because like there needs more improvement. It needs to continue. It's doing a great job right now, but it needs to keep going.
That's true. Yeah.
And any other more questions from the audience before we wrap this up? I'm gonna wait like 10 seconds or 5 seconds for any more questions.
I also just want to mention my background was inspired by Women Who Code Halloween party. Where did you get that background?
I totally did not occur to me to put the background, because if I was like, oh, I didn't felt Halloween's near.
Actually, I put this one last time when we had a meeting, so definitely, yeah.
Oh,
that's why
that's great.
I forgot to remove it, yeah. But I said I'm gonna have it on.
Yeah, I mean, it's still good. I mean, it has the Women Who Code.
Spooky season anyway.
Part of the community.
Yeah.
So like all the audience in the future now can know an idea of how fun we are.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the other part too, where we also have engaging activities through the community. Very good point.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for your time and for contributing your time with the talk. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you too very much. It was so great speaking to the community, Women Who Code, my fast community. It was my pleasure.